Hogstye.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the Memorial Day weekend episode of the Hogstye. It's Alex here, and I got Steve with me. I'm up in upstate New York. Steve's, of course, in Texas, where Steve always is. Unless he's visiting his parents, Steve is almost always in Texas.
That's true. Yeah, of course, it's a pretty decent place to have to be all the time.
Yeah. It's I'll tell you right now, it's very nice to come to a place that's cold at night again. So, you know.
I mean, I'm used to not cold now, so I'd rather it not be cold. And what your definition of cold is not what people down here think of as cold. No, they have not lived in Colorado like I have and a lot of other places. So to them, like 50 degrees is cold.
Well, that's what it was here last night. It was fantastic.
But that doesn't happen till wintertime. I mean, it's 75 at night here.
Yeah. Which is, anyway.
It's a cold spell.
Yeah, that's a cold spell right there. Well, anyway, I am up at my summer house. Steve agreed to record this earlier because I got to go do construction for my 90-year-old grandmother.
Yeah, and by the way, before we keep going, if you're listening to this on Monday's Memorial Day.
Yep.
And just I'd like to ask everybody remember what it's all about, which is to remember and celebrate the sacrifices of those in uniform who died in defense of your country. You don't need to thank me. Thank a Gold Star family. That's who you need to thank on Memorial Day.
Yeah,
They have children who aren't.
Yeah, I did a big Memorial Day event at work. Thursday. Yeah, it was Thursday. We did we do it every year. You know, any government agency does something to, you know, honor those who died. So, you know, we did ours. I wouldn't say I screwed something up. My computer suddenly decided to crash on me right as we were going to play the national anthem. That wasn't great.
You know, when I was running a soundboard, in college, because I've told Alex knows, and I've said on the air before, I used to be kind of a roadie, and they would. I worked at I was local crew, anyway, and so when I wasn't like setting up stage risers, I was also the local guy to run the soundboard. And one of those, we had a play or something, and I was supposed to play, there's a Billy Joel song.
Doesn't matter which song.
It really supposed, but the tape melted. Less than 30 seconds before the cue for that. And that was back in the day. And so it was reel to reel tape was where the music was. So I was like, oh no, what do I do? And so I just grabbed some other like random, the first
tape.
Song. It was a song. It was the first song I could find, but the tempo was totally off. They were supposed to dance to it, you know, the actors on stage, and the tempo was off. Everything was off. And the producer came running up, you know, stairs. And I was like, hey dude, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. The tape melted.
Well,
because back then all those machines, it was different. You know, it was, you know, stuff happened.
There's nothing that will make me sweat faster, or has made me sweat faster recently at work than, hey, you're supposed to play the national anthem, and everyone's like standing, waiting, and the color guard's there, and there's a brigadier general there, and all the high level people where I work are there, and there's no sound.
I have been there.
Yeah. Well, and you've been there in multiple ways because
I've been there when it's happened, and I've been the one that did it. Both. So
it was not fun. Speaking of not fun, we have some.
I got yelled at by the manager of Driving and Crying once for something very similar.
That's not fun.
You remember that band from the 90s?
Yeah. I will say I did not get any kind of issue from the general or my senior leadership. Like they understood what happened.
So did it eventually play? That's the question.
Yeah, I threw another computer in there and played it.
Oh, good. Okay, so they weren't standing there. They're not still standing there waiting.
No. 3 days later, they're not. Generals don't have time for that. You know that, Steve.
We'll leave it at that.
Yeah. All right. So we have some news to talk about off the field with this Washington Commanders stadium. I think we got to get into that as our story one, and we got to talk about some OTAs today, guys. So some interesting stuff to talk about. If you've not been, listening to the media, maybe you're up in a cabin in the woods like I am, but you don't have a radio or the internet. Although, how are you hearing this? I don't know. But the Commanders apparently agreed to an option to buy some land for their new stadium. It's down by the Ikea in Woodbridge, for those who are local to DC. 25 miles outside of the Beltway, I believe. And they are offering $100 million for 200 acres of land, which, Steve, you and I were talking online. You said that's a pretty reasonable deal for the space.
Yeah. For those of you who don't know, I'm an attorney with an emphasis in commercial real estate. Right. And so I know way more about all this than our local media, who got it totally wrong. They originally reported this as a purchase. Right. And of course, I knew immediately what they were really talking about as an option, even though nobody knew what until I said it. And then people actually said, oh, yeah, it's an option. Right. Because I put a tweet out about it. But so what that means is that the team has paid the owner a fee, and in exchange, they have recorded something in the real property records that says the Redskins or the whoever's, whatever entity he's formed to do this, has the right to buy this at a certain price before anyone else. So that's what it means. He can back out of it. It may be time limited. It almost certainly is time limited. It doesn't go on forever. Right. So that's what it means. And so it means that he's locked down one particular site and is still looking at others. That's what it really means.
So dumb question on my part. It's basically like a deposit, right?
Well, sometimes it depends on the deal. Sometimes the seller is willing to apply the option to the purchase price. Sometimes they aren't. It just depends.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if that was standard or not.
And as to the price, so $100 million for 200 acres of primo commercial land in a major metropolitan area, and yes, it's on the outskirts. That's not a ton. I mean, I've seen them $10 million per acre. And that's just in Houston or Texas area, which the cost of living is way less than in D.C. So that is not a lot, and it means it's way far out. I mean, Alex, how far out is this?
It's about 25 miles is what I've
Is that heard. Like, because I haven't lived in D.C. for a long time. Is that kind of outside of what you would think of as the rough sort of borders of the
most people
area?
I mean, well, look, my opinion is very constricted.
I know, but think like a Virginia resident. Think like you live in Fairfax.
So from what I've seen, the public reaction from those who live in Falls Church, Fairfax, Arlington, Loudoun County, they don't consider this part of Northern Virginia at that point. They consider that just Virginia once you get to Woodbridge.
That's what I always thought of when I lived there was, Woodbridge is not D.C. anymore.
Right. There was some initial talk when they announced this of people, well, you can extend the metro. That ain't ever going to happen.
Not that far.
You and I talked about that a while ago, like how much it would cost. I'm already hearing 3 times what you and I even said, because I think we estimated around $10 billion to drive metro down there.
I mean, I didn't have any basis for that. We just spitballing numbers.
Yeah. But it's insane the amount that metro would cost to get out there, or any mass transit. So that's unlikely.
Here's the thing, though.
Yeah.
The team doesn't care, okay? So the only thing the team cares about is, will people show up? They will put the stadium on the moon if they can get 65,000 people to show up every day. It doesn't matter what you think in Maryland. It doesn't matter what Alex thinks in Virginia. They may slightly matter what we say on this show. Who knows? But point is, it doesn't matter. Because, I mean, they don't really care about the fan base. They care about butts and seats. And so if they can get a bunch of people in Richmond who will replace the people from up in, like, near, like, so I don't know, like the University of Maryland up there who don't want to go, they will. And the other thing is, Twitter is an echo chamber of stupidity, okay? Most people will go anyway. Most people who are diehard enough to buy season tickets to this godforsaken team are going to drive an hour out of their way, farther than they did before. So I don't think it's a big deal.
I mean, I think you are going to lose some percentage of your fan base. No matter where you move it, something's going to change. That's obvious. What that number is, I can't tell you. Is it 20% of your season ticket holders? Is it 5%?
But you're going to lose, but in the net, they're hoping they're going to gain. So the lot, first of all, I don't know who would abandon a team because it moved 20 miles out. I mean, that's crazy. But, there's so many other reasons to abandon the team other than that. But you're probably right. So if people live up in northern Maryland somewhere, like I guess, the northern part of the Beltway, and they go, okay, well, I'll be a Ravens fan.
Right.
The team is going to shrug their shoulders and go, so what?
Yeah. So just so for anyone non-local, even though we're only talking 24 miles, it's 24 miles of also what's considered the worst stretch of road in the East Coast.
I-95 south is a nightmare.
Yeah. Like, that could easily be a 90-minute drive from the Beltway to there. It could be longer. Like, I went on a trip to Richmond for the show once, and it took me 5 hours, basically because of that little stretch.
I remember that because you were late.
Yeah, and I left at like 6 a.m. on a Saturday. It was
that
nuts.
was like training camp, and I was like, "Where's Alex? We need our content." No, yep. Alex is in a car.
Yeah, Alex was having a very bad day that day.
But the team doesn't care.
No, I know.
I mean, the bigger issue isn't really the location. The bigger issue is the money. Right. So what has happened this week, which I did see, because it was not on Twitter, it was all over the place, was one state senator, Senator Peterson, his name was like Jep or something, I think.
Chap.
Yeah, that was right. So he publicly announced that he would not support the state funding for the team, the entity owned by the team that's going to build the property. Oh, that was the other thing. So everybody says the team will own this. What's actually going to happen is Dan Snyder will have a separate entity that will own the property, and then maybe another entity. That he may have multiple entities owning multiple parts of the property. Mm-hmm. It's possible, and then he will lease the stadium back from himself, exactly like what FedEx goes. But so this Senator Peterson announced that he would not support the state funding this stadium purchase, and the reasons he gave were, one, it's he was concerned about the viability of the team, which I think is unfounded. He was concerned about Dan Snyder. And he's concerned about all the scandals. So where I'll start is the viability point. The team is viable, okay? The NFL does not fail. So it's not a matter of like the team going into bankruptcy. No. It's a matter of, can they draw fans? And for the state's money, will the state's money create development? And that's kind of the bigger fear.
Right. So... And I obviously, the team's always going to be viable. Like, an NFL team could play in a 10-person stadium in the middle of a desert and still make money.
I always said the NFL could play in a parking lot of a Piggly Wiggly and they would draw fans.
Exactly. I do think he has a legitimate concern about the viability of this as a project. And just for context, Chap Peterson isn't some anti-team guy. This is a guy who founded the Redskins Pride Caucus years ago when they first started trying to get the stadium in Virginia.
What is the Redskins Pride Caucus?
Redskins Pride Caucus was a group of Virginia politicians who were, one, trying to get the stadium relocated to Virginia, and then two, they were the Keep the Name group for Redskins politicians. So this guy is way on that side of being pro-Redskins, pro-wanting the team. So now he's flipped, which is pretty big,
I mean, I know a lot of people, the sycophantic fan types accused him of just, kind of being a hater and all that. And I don't think that's what it is, because, I mean, nobody's more cynical about politicians than me. But at the end of the day, he does have an obligation to the state of Virginia to do what's best for the money, and maybe and the state governments have a lot of money, but they don't have they're not stupid like the federal government and just
they can't print their own,
printing trillions of dollars and intentionally causing inflation and all the things the government's done. $350 million is a lot of money,
right?
And if he thinks that, what states help build stadiums for two reasons: one, they don't want the team to leave,
right?
And two, they want to spur development. Okay, and so the idea behind the Richmond training camp site was the city of Richmond said, if the Redskins come down here, there'll be a lot of fans and a lot of businesses and restaurants and all. None of that happened, of course, because the Redskins, never make money for anybody but themselves. But if they don't think it's viable to do that, there's no reason for the state to do that.
So, and I think when you talk about viability, I think he does have a point there. If the team is bad, we've seen what happens at the stadium where it is now. No one shows up.
Right.
that is not going to be better moving further out from the metropolitan area. And like, look, all you people who are like, yeah, Richmond will fix it. No, it won't. Richmond, first off, Richmond has no money. Like, there's not a huge wealthy group in Richmond of fans like there is in Northern Virginia.
And it's also not that close to Richmond either. It's not like right on Richmond's doorstep. It's still an hour away at least.
Right, at least from there, maybe probably probably 2 to 3 hour drive still. Yeah, on most days.
Yeah, like 100 miles or something, maybe.
Yeah, something about 100 miles. Yeah. I am not looking at a map, but that sounds about right.
Yeah.
If the team is bad, and what were they getting their worst last year? Like 40,000 fans?
Oh, less than that. I mean, Rick Snyder always estimated that the team had maybe 25,000 actual team fans, and then the rest were
visitors.
Yeah.
And now the visitors are less likely to come because you're moving it further away from.
Well, like the Giants and Eagles fans that always showed up, yes.
Yeah.
But, I mean, sometimes they would get, like the Steelers fans are nuts, and you would go anywhere and all of that.
Yeah, and they don't have jobs because they're Steelers fans, so they have time to travel.
Are they unemployed because they live in Pittsburgh?
That's my stereotype, and I'm sticking with it. Yeah. So I could see that concern of now you're taking out like even more fans. Like, what if you're talking about now that 20 number is 10 per game? Like, and the team is doing terrible.
That's the fear.
Right, and that's the viability question. You can't reinvigorate this Woodbridge and create a downtown mini city here on that. And,
I meant viable, like not like the team's going to fail. He's talking about, will the team make enough income in ticket sales to justify this and to be able to pay back the debt service on the loan and all of that. And I mean, I think it would be a viable concert venue because people will drive a long way to go see the latest stadium act. People come from out of town for it. I don't think it's a problem with that, and I think it would be the best venue in the DC area. It's really the football.
Here's the thing about that, though, Steve, or two interesting things that I've heard pointed out. One, they say they want to build a small venue there, like a 15,000-seat amphitheater.
Most of the time they do. They'll build a convention center or something like that.
But here's the thing. There's already multiple 15,000-seat venues in this area that are closer, again, to the metropolitan centers than they would be. You have Jiffy Lube Live, which is a nightmare to get to, but it's...
Where's that?
That's in, like, the Loudon, Dulles corridor.
Oh, okay.
And then you have Wolf Trap, which I think is technically only 7,000, but... that's seated, and then you have lawn. So
yeah, I mean that's a very viable concert venue. There's a lot of acts that are in that range. Yeah. I'm talking about, but no, like the Taylor Swifts of the world and the Metallicas of the world who play stadiums are not going to do that. They want the biggest venue,
But you're talking about a very small stadium. They're talking 60,000 now. They're not even talking 65.
Okay, so. From my experience representing a Super Bowl host committee in the NFL, I didn't represent. I worked with the NFL representing a team that was the host of the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl requires 65,000. They have to have 65,000. You do not have a Super Bowl. But what typically happens for these stadiums that are less is they throw in seats in random places. Yeah, and that's what they do. And so, 60,000 is a little less. If they get a Super Bowl, they already have a plan. I can promise you to fit.
Oh, I'm sure, but
5,000.
Do you think with how Dan Snyder's talked about that the NFL is going to be willing to give him a Super Bowl anytime soon, even if he builds a new stadium?
I mean, you would think not, but at the end of the day, I'm telling you, these owners care less than you think. Okay.
Sure.
Not about the money part. Did Dan Snyder cheat him out of money? They care about that. But all this like misconduct stuff, they're all doing it too.
Okay, no. The money part is the thing that they care about, and that actually we could segue into our next topic with that.
But I will say this about that, the misconduct. All the time I spent inside the building of a team, I never saw anything untold go on, and I never saw anything say anything appropriate. It never looked like any of the women there were unhappy. Anything like that.
Right. And I know you don't talk about it, but you have spent some serious time in those spaces.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you mentioned it too, so we should segue into. There was a brief news story that came out in USA Today that Jared Bell wrote this, that he's talked to some owners who are supposedly starting to count how many votes there would be to get rid of Dan Snyder. And it sounds like it's all going to depend on what comes out with the money situation with Beth Wilkerson. But that is a discussion that's happening.
I don't think the NFL will ever vote someone out absent something like a serious felony charge where they would have no choice. I think what it is called leverage. Mm-hmm. You talk about, this is what politicians do. You talk to the media to create an opposite reaction for the bad guys, and the bad guys being the Democrats in this case. Mm-hmm. I'm just kidding. Well, no, I'm not. But no. I'm just kidding with all of it. Yeah. But anyway, point is, these owners will leak something like this to some reporter.
Get feelers.
Well, it's not really feelers. They're probably trying to broker a settlement under the table with Snyder. And if they start leaking these things to the media, that's pressure to make Snyder cough up some money. We may not ever know about it.
Right.
But that's, I think, what this probably is more than anything.
Well, so it does break the question of, we know, all right, assume that all the stuff we hear about Dan Snyder stealing money was true.
Okay.
How much money do you think it would take for the owners to finally say, this is a big enough problem where we need to really push him?
Oh, man, I have no idea. I mean,
it's
only speculate.
I know it's speculation, but, are a bunch of billionaires going to care if it's less than $5 million split amongst them?
Yes.
Yeah?
Are you kidding me? Absolutely. Sometimes people that rich are the ones that complain most about legal fees and expert fees and
that's true.
All of that. Because I've been on the receiving end of that. Yeah. I think it's maybe even more the point than anything. But see, no American sports league has ever voted out an owner ever. Okay? If you think about the worst ones, and I'll name a couple. Marge Schott, Cincinnati Reds in the 70s and 80s. A little bit basically before my time, but what happened was that she was a violent racist who referred to her players as slaves and all kinds of just horrible things. Right. And the league eventually, they never forced her to sell, but they took her out of all guidance or a governance of the league and all that. They removed her from governing the team itself, and eventually they talked to her enough and she sold. Frank McCourt, Los Angeles Dodgers. And this goes back, I don't know, 10 years ago maybe. Frank McCourt was an awful person, was spending money on things like, he hired a shaman from Russia with team money to bless the team. His wife was flying all around the world with a bodyguard on team money, all these things. He didn't have enough money to pay the employees. I'm not talking about the players. I'm talking about the front office staff. Mm-hmm. He had to take out loans from these private equity dudes. He was a really horrible person, and he was involved in a divorce that unintentionally, through some incompetence of a law firm in Boston, put the team at risk. But what did the Major League Baseball do? First of all, they told him to leave. He said, "No, I'm not leaving." So then they came in and installed a dude to run the team for him and said, "You are no longer running this team." And then he promptly declared bankruptcy, which got rid of that, and that's another story. But the point is, that's where we go with this, okay? They're going to go to him. They're going to say, "We're done with you." And if he gives them the middle finger, then they could arguably remove his right to run the team and install whoever. That's probably the road they're going to go. Here's another one, Don Sterling.
Yep.
Who has been a horrible person forever. They knew he was a horrible person. They knew he was a slumlord. They knew he was a racist.
Yeah.
Nobody cared whatsoever until he got caught on tape.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's what did it. And what did they do? They never voted him out. They went to him and said, "You must sell. Get out."
Yeah.
And he did. That's what's going to happen here. There's not going to be a vote. I would bet my life on it that there will not be a vote.
No.
Unless he got charged with murder or something, and then they'd have to. But not I'm not saying Dan's done that. But if he
no. But I honestly, I think if something like it were that bad, they would do it just to make their point of, look at us. Yeah. Look how great we are. We're not going to tolerate this.
Yeah, they would have to. But absent that, it's going to be this pressure. And this media story is nothing but ownership or the league or somebody trying to get leverage over Snyder to broker a settlement of whatever it is they think he owes.
Yeah. And look, they would need, even if they were to have a vote, they would need 24, I think, people to vote him out. I wouldn't be surprised if they're close to that number would be willing, but
I don't know if I would say that in any way because again,
it wouldn't. I'm just saying it wouldn't surprise me. I don't think they would even do it, even if they had it.
It would surprise me if they were anywhere near that.
You think so? Okay.
Yes. Just know it. These billionaires are not good people. A lot of times, they know what's
even
going on.
Even the good ones are not great.
No, not at all. Yeah. So they're ruthless.
Yeah.
But again, a lot of these guys who've been around NFL a long time are misogynistic pigs. Mm-hmm. I never saw it, like I said, but I was just outside counsel. They're not going to do that.
You didn't spend a lot of time around the owner, even. I remember you saying.
No, the owner was never there ever. He had a bunch of other business, and it's not like Dan, who has nothing else to do but with the team. That owner had a lot of other business. He was always constantly out of town.
Right.
I don't think I only even laid eyes on him, like maybe once or twice, and that was it. Mm-hmm. And that was when he had to come in and sign something. Right.
And I'm assuming he shows up, doesn't really say anything, signs it, and leaves. And
it was also he would come to the law firm to sign it, and we would go meet him in the lobby. Someone would escort him up. He would go into a conference room. He would sign the thing, and he would be gone in 5 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. You just mark where he signs. We've all done those house property deals. We know how that part goes.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. We'd have everything laid out already on the conference room table. He'd come in, he'd sign it, and he would leave. And that's
little highlighter tabs.
Yes.
All that stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. How much money do you spend on highlighter tabs as a real estate guy? I'm assuming a lot.
Holy cow! Yeah. Well, things in like notepads and things like that. Yeah, a lot. But the highlighter tabs, I love highlighter tabs. It's a little better now because with the advent of DocuSign, it's a lot less now. But back then, absolutely, it was.
Yeah. All right.
Tabs for days.
Yep. Hey, you know what? Even as a non-lawyer type, I love the highlighter tabs too. They're great. They're a lot of fun.
But it's the different colors, Yeah. Because I like in my head, the different colors meant something else, different. So when I had a close, like a major closing, and we'd have like 30 documents on a table, like the different colored tabs were for different people.
Right.
And
green is the buyer, orange is the seller.
Well, it was usually like, something along those lines. Yeah. And then this one are the ones that have to be notarized. This is not. And you have to explain all this to the people.
These are for initials. These are for full signatures. Yes. Yeah. I'm with you.
Yeah.
I've refied and I've done all this stuff at this point.
Magnify that by 10, and that's what I'm talking
about. I understand that. But anyone who's been through that process knows what we're talking about.
So look, here's the thing. Dan Snyder is a cockroach.
Yes.
When, God help us, Armageddon happens, the 3 people left on Earth are going to be Keith Richards, Ozzy Osbourne, and Dan Snyder. Okay?
And they'll just be eating Twinkies the whole time because those are the other things that's fine.
Yes. Ozzy, Keith, and Dan are going to outlive all of us.
Right.
He's not going anywhere, folks. He's not.
Yeah.
Just because they don't like him, that may mean he's not going to get primo committee assignments, which he doesn't, and he's not really on any important committees. Right. He's, I
don't think he wants to be. I don't think he cares about.
I don't think they like him very much.
No.
And trying not to be misogynistic here. This is not what I mean. It's going to come out worse than what I'm about to say. Tanya Snyder is not actually running the team.
No.
Okay. Tanya, certainly women can do that. It's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is Tanya is a model who married a billionaire who is not experienced in running things like major organizations. Dan is doing everything just behind the scenes.
Correct. Tanya got to pick the shirt colors. That's
exactly, and be the face, because she is much more charismatic than he is. I mean, have you been watching this Johnny Depp trial?
Yeah.
So I think I haven't watched the trial, but you can hardly avoid clips of
some of the
stuff.
Media, yeah.
So what I've noticed is that Johnny Depp is the opposite of charismatic when he's not acting. You notice this? That is what Dan Snyder is. Dan Snyder is Johnny Depp of owners, but Tanya is very charismatic. So, which isn't surprising given that she's a model.
Yeah.
So she can be a good face of the team for sure.
So did I tell you the Johnny Depp story?
No.
Okay, so the trial's happening in Fairfax, right?
I didn't until yesterday.
Okay,
but
so
no, yeah.
and I know this is a total segue.
Why is it in
Nothing.
Fairfax?
Because that's where Amber Heard's from, and they're more
Okay.
favorable to the proceedings, the divorce, and all
Well,
that.
I understand.
Yeah.
No, I just didn't know she was from Fairfax.
Yeah. So anyway, he's been around for a while, and I can say all this now because it's already happened. I have a friend who works at Ford's Theater.
Okay.
You know where Lincoln
died. Yeah.
Yeah. She got a call from somebody saying, "Hey, will you do a private celebrity tour a while back?"
Okay.
Didn't know who it was. Turned out to be Johnny Depp. Apparently, he's a huge Civil War Abe Lincoln nerd.
Really?
Yeah. So, like, she and the head of the theater or the nonprofit, because it's more than just a theater, gave him a private tour of the museum, and he was nerding out about stuff and like asking all these and stating facts about Lincoln that like the head of the history department there didn't really. He had to be like, let me check that. Yeah, you're right. Okay.
I mean, Johnny strikes me as not necessarily an intellectual, but as a pretty smart guy.
Yeah.
That's how he comes across to
me.
He's not a Hollywood idiot.
Right. But I just thought that was very funny. I was like, oh, it's nice to know Johnny Depp is like a big of a
randomly Lincoln nerd.
Yeah.
Oh, but another thing I noticed about Johnny Depp, this is a total non sequitur at this point.
Well, I don't know why we're talking about Johnny Depp so much. All right.
But he wears who's the pirate he played?
Jack Sparrow.
He wears Jack Sparrow rings all the time.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, Jack Sparrow. I think. Well, he's a bit.
Those
of
are probably his
guy.
Rings. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a bit of a method guy. I think he's just became.
But he's not. It's not method acting in the courtroom.
No, not anymore.
It would be far more entertaining if he did do that in the courtroom.
Right. That and his Hunter S. Thompson. I think he's now just become a mix of those two people in life.
Anyway, back to football.
To football.
We are distracted.
All right, let's talk OTAs. Let's totally change gears. Just talk OTAs because they happened. The big takeaways, of course, no Terry McLaurin. Who's holding out for a contract, or not holding out, but he didn't show because they want to do the contract.
I would call it a holdout.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it a holdout. I wouldn't yet. Just I don't know. Like if he doesn't show up to the actual required practices, then it's a holdout.
Maybe fair enough.
Yeah. There was some talk about Montez Sweat didn't show up, but Ron Rivera said it was something they talked about. It was like he had some personal business to deal with, not a big deal. There was a whole thing with Chase Young not being there. He's still recovering. He's had an ACL injury. He's not going to participate in OTAs.
Why can't he come to watch and be with his teammates?
Well, supposedly he's been meeting with the doctors and doing rehab on, so that's why he's not there.
Wait a minute, though. Yeah. So the OTAs were what? Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or whatever?
I believe so.
Whatever.
Or, Thursday. I think they were Thursday.
Okay, you're right. Maybe. Whatever. You're telling me he can't
just be on the sideline.
3 days.
Yeah. Believe me, I mean, it's not a good look.
Especially, it's not like this injury just happened. He's however many months removed. What, 6 months more? Removed from it or whatever. I mean, more than that at this point. So I don't get it.
Yeah, well, and the thing that makes it a bad look is that Rivera had said, "Oh, Chase will be there, Chase will be there, Chase will be there," and Chase isn't really.
It's not like this is in Antarctica, for God's sakes. I mean, the team doctors are there, and whatever exercise he needed to do, he could do.
Chase lives around here. It's not like he's going back home to like Florida.
I'm just not on the Chase Young train. I really am not. I haven't been from the beginning. I mean,
I'm wondering about it. That's for sure.
I was really turned off last year when he prioritized. I forget how he phrased it, but he prioritized making commercials over the team, and it showed in his performance.
Yeah,
and I think he's a bit of a one-trick pony a little bit too on the field.
Well, I mean, we'll see what happens with him this year.
Yeah, absolutely. But this is a key year for him. He's got to produce.
This is year 3. This is the year where if you don't show up, you don't get paid.
That's
for most guys. Yeah.
Otherwise, he's going to be the Jadeveon Clowney of Washington.
Right.
Remember Jadeveon Clowney?
Mm-hmm. Well,
same thing. He'd been drafted number 1 overall.
Yeah.
He was, oh my God, this is the next Lawrence Taylor and all of this. Did he pan out? Not really.
No, I mean, he had an okay career, just not a superstar.
He didn't pan out as right.
Yeah.
And that could be Chase, guys.
Yeah.
I don't want to be negative, but that could be Chase.
I mean, you hope that it's just been a fluke thing still, but. The other stories that came out, There was some fake rumor that Deron Payne didn't show up, but he was apparently there the whole time. He was just in the weight room, and they didn't see him, so somebody...
The rumor I saw, which was again, this was like I opened Twitter to send my daily message, and this was on the top, is that Deron left practice and went to another field. Or like the other side of the field or something. Which that could mean absolutely anything. I think that's an absurd thing to wonder about.
He, according to his replies to that on social media, Jack Del Rio's, he just went to work out in the weight room. That's what happened.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And in terms of Terry McLaurin, I mean, look, I can say this now that I'm not a fan of the team anymore. Terry probably didn't want to be there. I mean, look, I'm just being honest. I mean, the offense isn't solid. The team hasn't won. It's been a tremendous mess. His friend is dead. You know, Dwayne Haskins isn't there and passed away. He's probably going to hold out for a max contract. There'll be no quarter given by the McLaurin team because he's going to require max money. Otherwise, he will leave.
Well, or
the team will go back down the road of franchise tag him over and over again.
Yeah, which I hope they don't do that. I wonder what his do you know who his agent is?
No, but if you give me a second, I can tell you.
Yeah, okay. Actually, you know what? I just looked up. Buddy Baker. So it's not like he's got one of those super agents. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He doesn't have a Jerry Maguire type sitting there asking, or who's the guy that
Exclusive Sport? It's for Exclusive Sports Group. I've not heard of that.
Yeah. So
who's the what?
The who's that one famous agent that Jerry Maguire was loosely based off of?
Oh God, what was his name?
The guy who was T.O.'s agent way back in the day.
Yeah, hold on.
You know who I'm talking about?
Yes, I do. Steinberg, Lee Steinberg is who you're talking about.
Yeah. One of those guys who just gets the most money for his guys all the time. You know.
Yeah, I don't know who this Buddy Baker guy is, but so that's what I think is going on here. Is I don't think Terry is burning to be in Washington. I think he knows he could be much more productive on another team,
probably
where he's not the focus and with better talent around him. If he could go sign with I'd just make a team up like Tampa, for example, or Denver, with really quality receivers. I mean, he could.
A superstar quarterback suddenly, he would probably do very well suddenly. On the receiver front, though, Curtis Samuel fully practicing. They're saying he's fully healthy finally, which is nice. I saw some videos of him, running routes and stuff, and he was making some pretty decent cuts. It's so hard to tell what these guys are really doing in those kind of videos, though. You know what I mean?
And at OTAs, there's no defense. It's not serious.
Exactly. That's
they're
what I mean.
75%.
Right. You can tell they're doing 75% too. But he was doing comeback routes. He was doing crossing routes. He's doing things that you want to see if he's healthy again. It's going to be interesting. They have 2 young receivers to go with that now. Who knows what's going to happen there with either Brown or the new guy, Jahan Dotson. But
I mean, Brown, I always thought he was going to take 2 or 3 years to develop, just based on his college film. And so, I mean, I think he has talent. So much of this is driven by other things. Will the quarterback be any good?
You have a quarterback who at least plays to his strengths a little bit more. With Carson Wentz.
That and Sam Howell knows Brown well if Howell ever gets on the field. So I have hope, but I'm not necessarily convinced that Brown is going to turn into a superstar in year 2.
No, me neither. But the potential is there. The other 2 big stories that I've heard people talking about this week. Antonio Gandy-Golden, since the receiving room is crowded, is moving to tight end. And so they got his first work in trying to learn how to be a better blocker. Supposedly, they're saying he's got some raw talent for it, but to me, it's interesting how many guys we have who they're trying to turn into tight ends. You know
what that means?
It means he's on his last leg. I know.
Yes.
Yeah, of course.
And he was a guy who, if you watch his college film, he didn't run route. He wasn't a great route runner.
No. He had a good catch radius. That was his thing.
Well, and the quarterback really sucked at
Right.
Liberty. His name was like Snake something. I can't remember.
Yeah.
His arm was not NFL quality arm, and so a lot of those fantastic catches Gandy Golden made that all the fans were so gaga about was, one, because the quarterback was awful.
Right.
And two,
it's out of necessity.
No, and Golden was like a foot and a half taller than all these other, these little corners, and that was Gandy Golden was truly a situation where the talent level he faced made him look better than he is.
Oh, sure. And he was playing at Liberty.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. You're playing against a lot of very weak schools there. Yeah, it's not surprising.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, if Niles Paul can do it, maybe Gandy Golden can do it. That would be good for him. I mean, he's not going to ever be an inline tight end. He's not big enough for that.
But let's be clear. Niles Paul could do anything. Like, Niles Paul was one of my favorite types of players, man. The guys who you could literally line up on either side of the ball in, like, at least half the positions on the field. He could have done it.
I guess I need to move Gandy Golden on my chart to tight end now, huh?
Yeah, I think you might need to.
Yeah.
So, that's going to change that a little.
So, Gandy Golden, 6'5", 223, or 6'4", 223 is what I have him listed at here.
Yeah, which, that's a small tight end, but you can definitely.
Well, it's a Z is what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like the Chris Cooley role, for those of you who don't know. That's what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
He's not going to be like John Bates.
No. Although even Cooley, I think, was more weight than 220.
Cooley was like maybe 6'3", 240 or something like that.
Yeah,
maybe.
He was more of a fullback build initially. Yeah.
I just think this is their way of trying to get value out of a fourth-round pick. That's what it is.
Exactly.
But he's got a lot of competition in the tight end room. I wrote a piece about this. I mean, they're going to have to cut somebody who can play. They've got Bates, Hodges, Reyes, Armani Rogers, Logan Thomas, and then Cole Turner. I mean, they're probably going to keep 3 on the roster, 4 at most. That's 6 right there. Even if you think, like Curtis Hodges is probably on his way out, you throw Gandy Golden into that. Yeah, they're going to have to cut some people who can play in that group.
Yeah, and then the other 2 things I saw that I thought were interesting. One was that Ron Rivera made a comment that he's probably going to keep 10 O-linemen on the active roster.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, which is interesting. Look, if you're into like roster construction stuff, that's an interesting thing to note, because I think at one point this team under Shanahan only kept 8 guys active. It was like really low, which I thought was surprising.
But it wasn't Shanahan's fault, remember?
No, that was not Mike's fault that he made that roster decision.
There's never been a guy in this town, by this town I mean Washington, in the sports arena who's made a bigger effort to take less responsibility for what he did wrong than Mike Shanahan.
I would venture to say it would be hard for us to find politicians who did that more than Mike Shanahan in this town.
Maybe. I mean, politicians
You're getting close.
On the earth, but yeah.
But at least some of them would take responsibility some of the time.
Occasionally. It's basically politicians get corrupted in about like term 3.
Yeah.
And then, it's over. Because even like Joe Biden, who's obviously corrupt and, with the Hunter Biden stuff, he was probably fairly honest back in the beginning. Or pick a Republican, Mitch McConnell. I'm trying not to be that one-sided.
Everyone comes in with good intentions.
Right. And then all of a sudden, those good intentions.
Then the lobbyists corrupt them. And that's what always happens.
Yes.
Yep. All right. So, and then, of course, the running back room. Everyone seems to be thinking this is going to be a very good running back room, is what I'm hearing. They're very high on the guy they drafted and creating a kind of 1-2 punch with him and Gibson.
I wrote a piece about this, too. What I think it's going to be is what you just said, which is a 1-2 punch. But I also think that Robinson may end up being the lead back.
Mm-hmm.
I
remember that, yeah.
Because Antonio Gibson is not a traditional running back.
No.
He still isn't to this day. Whereas Brian Robinson is very much a traditional power back, inline power back type. So I kind of think that you may see him eventually starting, but it's definitely going to be a 2-headed monster, going forward with J.D. McKissick playing the Brian Mitchell role.
Yeah.
Okay, so by the way, last year, and I just randomly pulled up my salary cap from October 31st, there were 9 on the active roster.
9
offensive linemen on that.
Okay. All right. So they're thinking one. Look, they had a lot of injuries there. I can't blame Ron for wanting more depth.
Well, at that time, Yeah, no, there weren't. I don't see anybody. Oh, John
On
Bos.
practice
No,
squad?
that. I don't see any offensive lineman injured reserve at that time in the practice squad.
Oh, okay.
Was
But I mean, we
let me.
went through what 4 centers last year. We went through a lot of players. So on the offensive line.
Yeah, no, they had a bunch of practice squatters, or a few, but
Yeah.
regardless, so 9 was the number at least in October.
Okay. So one more. I'm fine with that, honestly.
Well, and what that means is if you figure, I mean, you got to plan for Tressway and the kicker, whichever
Right.
one of those two guys makes it,
Yeah.
and then the long snapper. So that's 3. And so you got to think normally a balance of 25-25 per room. And so if you keep 2 quarterbacks on the active roster, they're going to keep 4 running backs. That's 6. 10 offensive linemen. That's 16. And so if you got 5 receivers, that is 21. And so then that leaves 4 tight ends.
Yeah.
So you could go up a running back, and that last spot is going to be dependent on who performs. Maybe Cole Kelly blows everybody away, and they want to keep a third quarterback. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the one.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see what happens there. All right. Why don't we have just enough time to do our position group breakdown. Today we're talking defensive ends. We've already talked a little bit of defensive ends with Chase Young and what we said about him during the whole him not being at OTAs. And Montez Sweat, of course, is going to be the other defensive end that we got to talk about in terms of starters. This is, am I right? This is his last year of his rookie deal, technically?
Yes.
Yeah. So he's going into his final season, probably also looking for a big payday soon.
Definitely.
Yeah, well, definitely. But, well, I meant probably as in, is he kind of going to pull a Terry McLaurin and want it a year early versus getting it next year?
I think he's been
pretty
a good pick.
consistent.
I don't think he's been great. He hasn't made a Pro Bowl. He hasn't blown anybody away. I think he's a productive
one really
player.
good season so far, right? Like,
yeah,
what
I'm
are
gonna pull up his stats here.
Yeah.
I'll race it. Can you do it before me?
Oh, I just closed my browser. No. All right.
Boom, got it.
Yeah, all right. 9 sacks in 2020 was what I was thinking of. 2020 was a good year.
And that's not great. I mean, it's good, but it's not great. And what do you want from a first-round pick? Great. So are they going to give him a massive contract? Probably not. Should they keep him? I mean, probably. They got to keep some defensive linemen, right?
Right. I mean,
Should they pick up his option, maybe? I don't think they've done that.
Right. When I look at his numbers, it kind of reminds me of what they had with Preston Smith, who put up good, not great numbers when he was here as a 3-4 defensive end.
And has had a productive career in Green Bay ever since.
Yeah. Sorry, Preston was an outside linebacker.
Yeah, but the point is, your point is valid, though.
Yeah. I hope they keep him, just because right now he's looking like your most reliable defensive end. Even if he's not elite, he's just like, if you tell me, hey, I got a guy who's going to put up 7 to 9 sacks on one side every year, I'm fine with that. Like that's a good option.
Because he was kind of a middle to bottom draft pick, if I recall.
Yeah, they traded back up to get him because that's who Jay wanted at 15, and he had to get Dwayne Haskins. Yeah. So they were willing to. It was 2 second-rounders to move back up? Yeah.
I'm wrong. Washington did pick up his option.
Oh, they did? Okay, so we got 2 years left.
Yes.
No matter what. All right.
Yeah.
Well, all right. So maybe there's not a big rush to put him on a long-term deal yet then. That's fine.
But maybe it should be. you know?
Maybe it should be.
I mean, Washington, the Redskins had a history of running players off.
Right.
Yeah, like Preston Smith is the perfect example.
Right.
Why did
Solid
Preston
player.
Smith leave? Yeah. Solid player. Contributed.
Right.
Was he great? No. But you have to have. What was the tier that Scott McGloin had? Was it red tier where?
It was blue tier where you had like 5 elite players, and then red tiers where it was like players 6 through 30. Yeah.
And that was Preston Smith, and that's exactly what he has been in Green Bay.
Right.
So Montez Sweat may be a red tier player who's never going to be Lawrence Taylor,
right?
Maybe, or Bruce Smith to hit the position exactly right. But that doesn't mean they shouldn't keep him around. It doesn't mean he's not a productive player, and it also doesn't mean that if Chase Young ever develops into what we think,
right,
that will open up opportunities for Sweat on the other side.
Oh, exactly. I mean, look, defensive line play. I think we all know this. One good guy makes everybody better. And Chase Young might be able to become that. I think Jonathan Allen does that a lot. We don't. I think we kind of undersell how much Jonathan Allen play has helped some of these other guys at times.
Jonathan Allen's fast becoming a legit first round pick, worthy of first round pick.
Yeah, he definitely is. And we'll see with Sweat and Young.
But in terms of the other defensive ends, which ones do you like out of the remaining group?
Outside of Chase Young,
Sweat and Young, yeah.
Well, there's a lot because I'm looking, man. There's 11 of these guys. Well, nine, not including them.
These guys, a lot of these guys are going to be on the street come September.
Yeah. So, the guy who I really liked his tape last year was Shaka Toney, who really probably more of a linebacker, just given his size because he's 6'2", 240.
Right.
But he had a lot of speed when you watched his highlights and stuff from college. I was surprised they didn't utilize him a little bit more as just a situational edge rusher. Maybe that happens this year. But that's all potential. Like, we haven't seen much done by that guy on the field.
Yeah, so I like Shaka Toney too. So he played in 10 games, 1 start, 1.5 sacks, and 8 tackles. That was what he did last year.
Right. And then, of course, last year, I think William Bradley King probably had more play time, correct?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Let me look him up.
Yeah, and he was the other rookie that they drafted in the 7th. That was very weird that they drafted 2 linebackers in the 7th round last year.
Well, you get back into the back rounds, and then it becomes really like a who's the best available on on the board. And they did, especially Ron Rivera is he heavily weighs need in his drafts.
Right.
And you could tell from his 2 first-round picks and then this year's second-round pick, all need.
It's all been need-based, yeah.
But when you get to the back around the draft, it's at that point you're just trying to hit the lottery. So.
Yeah, if you can get lucky on one guy, great.
So we were wrong. Bradley King played less.
Oh, you know who it's James Smith-Williams who probably these 3 name guys that we got.
Yeah, I always mix those 2 guys up.
Yeah, their names don't sound anything alike, but they're 3 name guys, so mix them up. I get it.
And they're hyphenated.
Yes, hyphenated 3 name guys.
Okay. Yeah, so James Smith, I was getting it wrong even then. 14 games, 6 starts, 2.5 sacks, 30 tackles. He was the one you're thinking about.
Yeah. Which, that's not bad for your third rotational guy. Not great. No. Obviously, you look at this group, the guys, the backups, very young. I think the oldest guy I'm scanning through right now is F.A. Obata.
Are you looking at my online roster chart, which has
I'm looking at, I just copy and pasted stuff in my notepad.
That's fair enough. I was hoping you weren't looking at some other source.
No. I just cut and paste stuff into a notepad real quick for the show. That way, if my browser crashes, my web browser, I have it in a notepad.
Smart.
Yeah. But I'm right? Obata's probably the most senior guy behind.
Actually, it's Jonathan Allen. Oh, you're talking about just the ends?
Just ends.
Bata is it?
Yeah. And when did he get here? Do you know? I feel like he's been here a few years. I have that
because I have all these in my notes. He was originally signed before the 2020 season.
Okay. So this is his second season or third season.
Third season coming up.
Yeah. And he's been, around.
I don't know. I mean, he's been around. That doesn't mean anything. I mean, I've been around.
That's what I'm saying. That's kind of what I was going to try and pay a compliment. I'm like, I don't remember him actually doing anything, so he's just been here.
You changed your thought in mid-sentence.
Right.
We can't go back because we're on live show here.
Right. Yeah. F.A. Obata's been around. That's all we can say about Obata.
Did you just say F.A. Obata?
How do you pronounce it?
David.
What?
David Bada is who you're talking about.
I have F.A. written as his name.
Oh, I thought you were talking about David Bada, the international player. Oh, you're talking about F.A. Obada. Oh.
Yes, so we have David Bada and F.A. Obada.
Okay, he has not been around. He was originally signed this offseason. I'm confused. Okay. All right, did you start off talking about David Bada or not?
No, I've been talking about F.A. Obada the whole time.
Okay. I was in my head thinking about David Bada the whole time. No. We're pros at this, folks.
Yes. Well, so to be fair, one is just the Irish version of the other's name.
Yeah, probably. Okay, so F.A. Obada has been around.
Right.
The NFL, just not around.
Right. Not around this team. No. Yeah. He was with the Bills at one point, obviously. But he's another international guy, though, Obada.
I mean, based on his name, I would assume that's, Nigerian or something.
Well, he was born in London, England.
Oh, London. Okay, so F.A. Obada played in 52 games, 2 starts, 11 total sacks, 62 total tackles. His high water mark was 2020 in Carolina. He's another former Panther, 5.5 sacks. So, I mean, he's a pro. He's a professional backup.
Yep. Yeah. I mean,
David
that's the
Bada
thing.
isn't, though.
David Bada isn't a professional backup?
No.
What would...
Professional practice squatter.
Yeah. He's a professional practice squatter. Then, let's see who else we got. Jalen Jilks. What do we know about Jalen Jilks? Anything about Jalen Jilks? Does anyone know anything about Jalen Jilks?
Mr. and Mrs. Jelks probably know about him.
Yeah.
I believe, let's see.
He was drafted by the Cowboys.
I believe he's been cut. I don't have him on my roster anymore.
Oh, has he been cut now?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't have him anymore. I deleted him for some reason.
All right. Let's see who else. Bumini Rotimi. That was one.
Rotini. I mean, I like him.
Yeah.
I think he does have some talent. He has shown flashes here and there. I think he could be a pretty decent backup.
And he's the bigger guy, right? Like I'm looking at his size, 270. He's almost
he's a
like
bigger.
To me, that's almost like a 34 defensive end, not a 4-3 guy.
Yeah,
but,
maybe so. Yeah.
Yeah. But Old Dominion guy, so we know our buddy Robbie probably is best friends with him.
Probably. I mean, yeah.
For those who don't remember, Robbie Duncan apparently is friends with every guy who ever plays at Old Dominion. So.
Well, but we're getting to the point where Robbie's been pretty far removed.
That's true. But he still lives down there. Like I'm sure he's still around it.
Robbie, if you're listening, tell us. Do you know this guy or not?
Yeah. Give some dirt.
Call me.
Yeah. Let's see. Is Jacob?
Okay, so let me clarify here. I think I've got one. Let's see. Okay, so Jalen Jelks did sign a futures contract this offseason, but he signed a futures contract in 2021, waived with an injury designation on July 27, 2021, then reverted to injured reserve after clearing waivers. All of that happened last year, so the futures contract's only 1 year, so Jelks then should not be on the roster, which is why he's not on my list.
Okay. The only other guy that I see that really is worth mentioning is Casey Tuhill.
Casey Tuhill is a guy that seems like he's been around forever and has never done anything. Him and Daniel
he's been
Wise.
here 2 years. Yeah. Looking at his numbers, he's played. He played every game last year. He's been here 2 years. He played 8 games the year before, after a very brief stint in Philly. But yeah, no sacks. He's given credit for 7 QB hits on Pro Football Reference, so I guess that's something. Good for him.
It's 7 more than you and I have.
No, yes, that's true. But look, I mean, the point is, this guy is a back of the depth chart guy too.
So the question would be
probably a special team or that kind of thing.
Who are we going to see? Because we always do this in our position group breakdowns. Who are we going to see on the active roster in September? Obviously, Chase Young and Montez Sweat are locks.
Right.
I think William Bradley King is probably a lock.
Yeah, they seem to like him.
I think Shaka Toney is going to be on the roster, so that's 4. Now, will they keep more than 4, let's pull up and see what they did last year again.
I'm going to say they probably kept 5 last year for some reason. Because they had Smith Williams and...
Okay, so they kept 9 defensive linemen in total. Right. Allen, Ioannidis, Payne are defensive ends. Tim Settle, our defensive tackle. Tim Settle's defensive tackle. Then we had Smith Williams, Sweat, Tony, Tuhill, and Chase Young. So they kept 5 last year.
I wouldn't be surprised if you see a similar number because, now that we've lost 2 good defensive tackles and have 1 replacement kind of penciled in, I don't think they go with just 3 defensive tackles. That would be stupid.
No. Yeah. So that's my 4, and then the best of Casey, Tuhill, Daniel Wise, Bunme, Rotimi. I'm going to go with Rotimi.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's F.A. Obada, just because you're talking about a more veteran presence and a guy who obviously played with Rivera's team for a couple of years there in Carolina, so he knows what he's doing. That could be a thing. Especially given how young the rest of these guys are, it would make a lot of sense to have someone a little older, just in case.
Yeah, no, that's a good guess.
Yeah,
so we'll see.
Look, it's everyone's guess is just a crapshoot with the backups.
Oh well, yeah. I mean, we don't, we're not looking in a crystal ball here.
Yeah,
we're just
really, that's gonna be an interesting thing to watch for in preseason is who stands out from that group because you've got a lot of guys. Obviously, if we're talking 8 guys, 7 guys, all competing for 2 or 3 spots.
Do you think anybody's going to be watching this team in preseason?
Other than reporters and people like me, no.
I mean, and I guess you have remained a hardcore fan. It sounds like.
Less hardcore, but still yes. If I'll put it this way, Steve, if I was 100% like 2 years ago, I'm probably down to 80. That's where I'm at.
Okay, I'm at 0.
Yeah, I know you're at 0.
I'm just doing this just because I like doing it. By the way, so that's the end of our position group breakdown. Next week will be quarterbacks.
Yay!
Which is a reminder. No, I'm sorry. Next week is edge rushers. Jamal is going to write the piece on edge rushers this weekend.
Right.
And then after that, we're doing quarterbacks. So next week, our show will do edge. Wait a minute. We just did
we just did edge rushers. So our show is quarterbacks.
I'm with you. So I'm getting my dates all mixed up. So June 3rd, my due date for quarterback. Yeah. So the edge rusher piece by Jamal will come out this coming week. And then next week on the show, we will talk quarterbacks.
All right. Okay. So we're going to talk Sam Howell for like 2 hours is what we're going to do.
No, we're going to talk Cole Kelly for 2 hours.
Oh, okay. Cole Kelly.
Is that possible?
Cool. Yeah.
Can even Mr. and Mrs. Kelly talk about Cole Kelly for 2 hours?
I'm sure Mr. and Mrs. Kelly can talk about it. They'll tell us about what his 3rd grade science project was. That's what they would talk about,
Maybe we need to get Robbie Duncan back on to talk about Taylor.
Yeah, that might be a thing. All right, I think that should wrap up this week's episode, guys. Hope you all have not happy Memorial Day, a solemn Memorial Day. I don't know what the appropriate thing for that is because you shouldn't have a happy Memorial Day, right, Steve?
Just take some time to appreciate your family and those around you, and take a few minutes out of your day to thank those who died in defense of the country.
Yeah, there you go. That's well said.
I'm a pro at that.
Yes. Well, it's not like you haven't probably been doing it your whole life.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah. All right, guys. We will see you all next week.